Hey, good morning, y'all. I just want to hop on, I guess, right on time and kind of say hi, let everyone get settled in. While we're waiting for everyone to come in, I just kind of want to see where everyone's from. So, like, put in like your hometown, your city. Also, if you see me like looking here and then looking here, I do have a second monitor, so I'll kind of switch back and forth. Oh my God, it's 11 p.m. somewhere. 11:30 p.m. It's crazy. I like to go to bed by 10 p.m. I could not. Yeah. So while we're looks like we've got a little bit of a crowd here. It's really cool seeing like how far everyone is. That's so crazy. Okay. So just to kind of start everything out, I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen. So today, as you guys probably know, we are as you guys probably know, we are doing build and deploy a full stack web app with AWS. Oh, hi y'all. Okay, so first of all, just welcome. Um, Welcome to the event. If you want to post about this, please do. The hashtag is MLH localhost. We can also do MLH localhost build. And then you can add us on our Twitter at MLHacks. So just to kind of do like a basic introduction of myself. Hi, my name is Mara. I will be leading you through the session today and hopefully helping you learn something cool and new. I know that there's definitely a lot and I learned a lot too. I'm currently a third year undergraduate CS major at the University of Virginia. So right now I am calling you guys from Central Virginia. I'm on East Coast time, so it's only 1 p.m. for me. Um, and just like a little fun fact, my favorite programming language and tool is React and Python. I like to do a lot of like web dev stuff. I also got my start in Python um, back in my first year of college. Okay. If you guys want to put in what your favorite programming language or tool is, I'd love to see what else is out there and what a lot of people like. As for whether or not like you want to see if this counts for like the local build, it does. You just have to you'll stay through the whole workshop, you'll learn, and then we'll do a quiz at the end, and that's how you make it count. Okay. So just a little bit about MLH. So as you guys probably know, our whole mission is just to empower hackers. We have 65,000 plus hackers. We've created 12,000 plus projects. And we're, as you guys can probably tell from the comments, pretty international with over 400 cities. If you need to see any more resources, go ahead and find that. Okay. If you guys haven't seen the ticker down below, go ahead and check in. So with checking in, you'll be able to get like the invites to our MLH Slack. You'll get to see different workshop slides and basically kind of have a chance to go over this after you've done this workshop. I'll have the sticker down here for a while, just to remind you to check in and any latecomers. Okay, so today we just kind of went over welcome to MLH, and we'll be first setting up our dev environment. There's a lot of downloading going on. We're gonna get started with AWS. We're gonna go ahead and build and run our application, and then we're gonna go ahead and deploy it. And then step 5 will be the review and next steps. And step 5 is where you'll be getting the points that will count for build. Okay, so today we're just going to go over how to make a full stack web app with Flask. Don't feel too intimidated. A lot of it will be template code that you can expand on later. I saw someone was asking where to check in. For any latecomers, go to that link down below that says check in here. We're going to figure out how to configure a database. We'll use a couple commands, and then we're also going to use AWS Elastic Beanstalk using the command line interface. Okay. So basically, we're just going to go over first, what is a web application? So as you see here, a website displays information to the user, but a web application is really dynamic. It changes based on the user input. So nowadays, I think a lot of what we see are web applications, but if you're doing something basic like HTML and CSS, that would just be a plain old website. Full stack means that you have something in the front end and you have something in the back end. So the front end is kind of, imagine like that's the front. That's what the user sees. When you're talking to someone person to person, you see their front. And then back end is kind of more like backstage. You kind of see behind the scenes, and this often will have like the database storage, and all the other logic. Okay, and then this is AWS. So you guys have probably heard it. It's definitely been a really big buzzword in the past few years, where Amazon Web Services is just a collection of cloud computing services. If quite a lot of people. So if you know anyone that's on Zoom right now, go ahead and redirect them. We actually had to do a last-minute switch because all of you wonderful people wanted to come to this event. So we want to make sure we had enough space, so we went ahead and switched to Twitch. As for recording of our session, if you want, you can always go to our Twitch, and we'll have all the videos there. Okay, so back to AWS. So it's just a collection of cloud computing services. So basically, if you guys don't know too much about that, it means that it's kind of stored up in the cloud, up in someone else's drive that you can interact with. So a lot of companies will use this, including Twitch, like we're using right now, and then NASA and Netflix, and a lot of startups are starting to use it as well. So AWS is typically used by DevOps or sysadmin. Often that's the shorthand of that word. The important thing here is that AWS works at scale. So at scale means that you can develop your app for one person, but you want to make sure that it can grow and grow and grow to the point where, like, what if you want to have 1 million people? And then AWS is just a really good choice with that because it works for one person to 1 million people. Yeah. So today we're going to make a very simple seafood finder app. So what we'll be doing is in the app, we'll be able to search seafood places in our city or whatever city we decide to look up using the Yelp API. So for you guys who may not know, Yelp is just a restaurant review app. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move to setting up our dev environment. So for a lot of this, I've already set it up a lot on my end, so I'm going to be kind of screen sharing most. If you find that I'm going too fast, because as I said, I already did a bunch of the download, let me know and we can go ahead and kind of review. Okay, so one thing that I want to make sure that we know is development versus production. So development is typically what you imagine as the kind of coder working in the back, working on their own, kind of testing it. And production would be once it's available to the public. So when we're coding, we want to work in a development environment that's on a local database. So this is also known as our local environment because it's on our computer, our laptop. And then, you know, that way we can test and debug, because any bugs that are in development, if we decide to push to production, they're going to be, those same bugs are going to be in production for users to see. So that's all that is. So just kind of give you an idea of the whole life cycle. So first we have development, and then that's kind of where we'll like make the code edits and everything. Staging is going to be more about hardcore testing. We're going to skip this for the sake of the workshop, but if you're actually working in the industry or you want to work on your own project, this is probably a good idea. And then production is just that live code that people use. Okay, so some of these tools may be familiar to you, some of these may not. Um, so this is we'll be using Visual Studio Code. It's like my favorite code editor. I've been using it for the past, like, since I started programming. It has a built-in terminal, which is really cool. A terminal is where we'll run commands for our computer to execute. So we'll be using it to run shells. And it's also where we'll be configuring the database. Python is a popular programming language. I highly recommend it for beginners. I actually TA'd for an intro to programming class where we used Python for like the past 2.5 years. It's been a while. Pip is just a package manager that should automatically come with Python. And then mariadb is a database that we'll be using. And then the AWS account, like I said earlier, is just a quick, easy cloud computing service. Okay, so first off, we're going to go ahead and download Visual Studio Code. It has a bunch of extensions, and for this reason, if you notice that mine looks a little different from yours, don't fret. I just have a lot more extensions downloaded, and I highly recommend looking more into it afterwards. Okay, so go ahead and check out this line. This link here is just mlhlocal.host/vscode download. So go ahead and download it according to like your OS, and then we'll go ahead and we'll wait for a little bit. Okay. So I'll just have this screen. So after it, if you've installed it correctly, you should be able to open the application and you'll see the following window. Okay. A lot of people are asking, will this be available, like the recording afterwards? Yes, everything on Twitch is being recorded. It will just, if you notice, you can go in our Twitch profile and you can see all the past workshops, so you can view that at any time. If you guys are latecomers, feel free to check in here at mlhlocal.host/check-in. VS Code is not for the sake of uniformity. It's highly preferred, but and that's how I will be teaching the workshop. But if you want to use another IDE, you can. Just make sure that it uses a terminal, and I won't be able to help you troubleshoot if for some reason something doesn't work. As for how long it takes to activate the Educate account, it looks like someone said it took a day or 5 minutes. I guess it varies. For that, the AWS, you can just use like a regular account, but definitely do recommend an Educate account if you are a student. Okay. Is anyone still downloading Visual Studio Code? Again, I will say all these things that I mentioned before as the tools you'll need, I will be using those tools, and that's how this walkthrough will be. So if you decide to use another database, another IDE, you can. I just won't be able to help you troubleshoot it, and the instructions may be a little bit different. Okay. If you want to check in for Hexa stickers, check out that link down below. Okay, go ahead and move on. So now we'll be going into the terminal. If you're confused on how to do that, you just go ahead and go to View in Terminal, and I'll go ahead and share my VS Code. Give me 1 second, bear with me. All right, as for them, everyone who uses that, very brave. I respect that. Okay, so I'm gonna go here. See my VS Code here. I'm gonna go ahead and do View Terminal. I'm gonna open a new terminal down here. So open up a second one. And so here, I want you guys to go ahead and check to see whether or not you have Python. So Python, I'm using a Mac, so I use Python 3 because the default for Mac is Python 2. but I'll do Python 3 and I'll do hyphen hyphen or dash dash version. And so that tells me I have Python 3.8.5, which is really cool. So go ahead and check to see whether or not you have this. If not, we'll just go ahead and show you how you can download Python. Just checking over the chat. Okay. If you're not a student, I'm not sure if you can get access to AWS Educate. Any Python is good. Above 3.6, I believe, should work. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go back. Slides. Okay, so now that we have our text editor, let's talk a little bit about Python. So Python is just a general purpose programming language that you'll use for a lot of different places. So you can use it for, most common are data science and machine learning, and we'll just be using Python 3 plus for this workshop. As long as it's just 3 plus, it doesn't matter about like the specific numbers. Okay, so we just showed you how to check to see if you have it in your terminal. If you do not have it, you're on a Windows computer, the Windows Store will prompt you to install Python. Don't do it this way. Go ahead and just go to mlh-local.host/get Python. This link right here. It's going to vary depending on your system how to download it. So we'll go ahead and just do this. I'll give you a little bit of time to check that out. And yeah, as long as you have something above 3, it's good. As for what is the organization hosting this workshop, it is MLH. MLH, the Major League Hacking, that's who's hosting local hack day build. We have a lot of great events this week. We'll be doing workshops, we'll be doing daily challenges, we'll be doing weekly challenges. If you actually want to check me out on Thursday, I'll be back on stream following a tutorial about web development. Yes, I can go ahead and share the links in chat. Yeah. Okay. Is anyone having trouble downloading Python? Let me know if you still are. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and move on. Yeah, I love Zoom sessions too, but you know, it's a double-edged sword. We're letting so many people learn about this. But other than that, I do have other workshops this month, next month, that will be able to, this month, that month, next month, that you guys can like come join and come in a Zoom session with me. Also, I do really like Grogu. I've been obsessed with Baby Yoda for like the past year. Okay. You can use a normal AWS. As for the organization for this event, it is Major League Hacking. Okay. Let me actually, you got a good point, so let me go ahead and talk. Let me go ahead and get that settled. Okay, so for any latecomers, I'll go ahead and talk about that. So you did not miss anything about the AWS yet. We will be getting that later. I think a couple people are just going ahead, getting a head start. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go back. Okay, so as for, it doesn't sound like anyone's still downloading Python, so we'll go ahead and move on. Also, thank you to the person who said it was the best backdrop ever and cute nails. I actually got this from the MLH Secret Santa. A little plug. if you guys really like educating and are passionate about CS, definitely apply for an MLH coaching job. I did that back in just 2 months ago, and it's been such a great time since. Everyone's so friendly. Okay, so now what we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to go ahead and check to see if we have PIP. As for everyone who's having trouble with their AWS, we will get to that in a little bit. Otherwise, if you're worried about not having AWS Educate, you can go ahead and just use regular AWS right now. But we will be getting to that later. Okay, so pip is just a package. Is just a package installer for Python. We're going to be using a wrapper called pipenv. Yeah, so that just basically means it's the pip environment. So a virtual environment kind of helps everything run locally on the project and doesn't force us to install everything that's required globally, so we can keep it just in a nice little environment. Okay, so in order to do that, how to check for pip, I'll go ahead and show you that in the terminal really quick. So we're going to go ahead and go back to VS Code a little bit. And we'll go here, we're going to do pip3. Again, you can also do pip3 or just pip, and you do -- version. All right, so for me, it tells me that I have pip 20.3, and that is all good. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. I will just be kind of sharing some slides for registration, but for most of it, I'll try to share as much code as possible. Okay. So just to kind of recap what we've done so far, just for everyone new, we have checked in, okay? Checked in, everything's mirrored. We have downloaded Python, and we have downloaded Maria. If you have installed Python on your local, at that point, you should be able to run Python and then space and then -- version just to make sure that you are getting the input. If you're getting something like Python command doesn't exist, then that means you have to kind of check your reinstall. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move into mariadb. So that is the database. Okay, I'll go ahead and go back to sharing my slides. Okay, so MariaDB right here is just an open source relational database. So what that means is that the database we'll get to how to get Maria installed. It's just a query. It uses a query language. It just something that makes reading and writing data super easy. And it was kind of built at the time that people were worried about MySQL getting taken over. Yes, you're right. It's a fork of MySQL. Okay, so if you guys don't know what relational databases are, they're just databases that have tables that refer to each other. So like, I'm gonna go ahead and close this banner. So if you have a table for songs and a table for artists, you can kind of look, a song will have a song ID, and then some attributes of that may be the song name, the length, and the artist. And then by having the artist ID linked, it will take you to another table that has a little bit more information about artists. So here are 2 different links for installing MariaDB. So if you have a Windows, obviously check out the mariadb -Windows. And if you have a Mac, check out the Mac one. So with Mac, it is a little bit easy to download stuff. We'll be using Homebrew for the most part of it. If you don't have Homebrew and you have a Mac and you love to code, definitely get it. Just check out this link right here, mlhlocal.host/get homebrew. I do use a Mac, not a Linux. I am not ashamed of that. Okay, so for like Mac and Linux users, all right, here, yeah, I'll go ahead and go back. It'll probably take you guys a sec. Um, so you do mlh.host mariadb Windows, mlh localhost /mariadb Mac. Okay. As for okay, so go ahead and download it. This is Mac again. If you have a Mac, it's easiest to download this with Homebrew, so I do suggest it. Okay. Again, that's just kind of how the tutorial is going. So if you have another way you'd like to do it, you can, but I will only be able to help troubleshoot these instructions here. Okay. So has anyone gotten to the point, Mac and Linux users specifically, have you guys gotten to the point where you have it downloaded? How do I don't know? So basically for Homebrew, yeah, this is probably going to be the messiest part of the workshop, just all this downloading. Homebrew will take a sec. We can vibe, we can have a good time. If anyone wants to just strike up some conversation, kind of sad that we aren't doing this on Zoom. I kind of want to talk to you guys. Just what's the word? Refresh on what we've done today. So far we have downloaded VS Code, Python, pip, and right now we're working on mariadb. Okay. As for whether or not you can use another resource, you can. I just won't be able to help you walk through it, and this tutorial won't necessarily be geared towards all different types of databases and all different IDEs. If you have MySQL installed, so I do suggest downloading mariadb. It looks like someone has another command line for it, if you want to try that out. Okay, so I'll go ahead and have this up for a while. As for a couple questions, you guys are so sweet. How I got started in coding, I think middle school, I was super into Tumblr, and with Tumblr, you could edit your website, your blog with HTML and CSS. So I thought that was really cool. Did not touch it again until I think 10th grade. I took APCS, got completely lost in the class, but I was super determined. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a CS major. I had a little bit of an existential crisis, thought maybe I'll go into econ, but thankfully I took my first CS class in Python, and I found that it came like relatively easy to me. And I also love the idea of just being able to do something and kind of pull it essentially out of thin air. So yeah, I just kept along with it. Go ahead. If you guys I am not in a Tumblr Facebook group. I did not know those existed. That's crazy. I think I stopped using Tumblr after I got to high school. Okay, so after you've installed Homebrew, you should be able to just do brew install mariadb. If you need to find this video later, we'll just head back to twitch.com, Twitch TV. Sorry, this is my first time using Twitch. Twitch.tv/MLH. And then all the recordings will be there. Yeah, mariadb installation does take a sec. As for whether or not you jump into your project directory, it doesn't matter too much. Okay. As for people who just joined, the session will be on the Twitch profile. It will be on the Twitch profile, and we've installed VS Code, Python, pip, and are working on mariadb right now. As for installation, just kind of go with all like the default settings for right now. I'm not a Windows user, so I don't know all of them in depth. So after brew install mariadb, if you have a Mac, which it sounds like you did, if you do brew install, go ahead and do this right here. It's here, I'll go ahead and, so you can't actually send links in the chat. Okay, as for the root password, you can put it, just make it just blank. It is 2 lines of code, I think. As for dev post, this one is on dev post. It's not a challenge, but it is a workshop. So in order to get points for it, you will be going ahead and doing a quiz at the bottom, or a quiz at the end. Okay, after brew install. Okay, give me one. Okay, so for anyone, so if you are a Mac or Linux user, I will be pasting this here. If for some reason, I'm also going to use this. Go ahead and share the screen again. Okay. So if you find yourself done with installing mariadb on a Mac or Linux, go Mac users, you're going to go ahead and put this. If for any reason you have an error with this path, I think I did, but my computer can be a little funky sometimes. Here is another path that I personally used. Okay. As for Windows, the Windows link is, just go ahead and click back. Oh, the Windows link is right here. It's just mlh local.host/mariadb Windows. Okay. This command will probably take a little bit. Honestly, not having feedback after the commands, you'll see kind of something loading, but other than that, you shouldn't get an error or anything. So go ahead and do this. If you run this command and you don't get an error, perfect. I believe this command is Mac users only. There is nothing after the commands. Yes, so there's not going to be anything after the commands. So the way we're going to test to see if that works is by this next line here. Go ahead and get rid of this banner so you guys can see this. So Mac and I believe Linux users, you just go ahead and do MySQL with the U flag, root, and then P flag. If that one doesn't work for you, just go ahead and add sudo in the front of it and put in your administrative password. And then Windows, go ahead and put in that. Okay. Just to recap, Homebrew is for Mac. Okay. So if you get that error about that path not being there, we're gonna go ahead and try this path. This is the path that worked for me personally. Okay. You should wait for the command prompt to come back up. There should be, I think at this point I can actually run it myself. Okay. So yeah, just add sudo if you're having trouble. And if for some reason that path from the last slide didn't work, go ahead and use that path that's on the banner right here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and share my terminal screen. Okay, so at this point, this is what I have. So if you notice, I did it without sudo, and it, like, my password was access denied, but I did it with sudo, entered my root password, and then you should hit this monitor right here. Yeah, so if you get that access denied for user root at localhost, go ahead and just put sudo in front of it. The organization / school that's hosting it is actually not a school, it's Major League Hacking. So Windows does not have a terminal command. They actually have, there's a link that you can go to for instructions. Let me go ahead and, oh, okay, let me paste. So if you're looking for, oh, yeah, I can go ahead and share that. If you're looking for that, that's this. Okay. If you get no such file or directory, go ahead and try doing the alias line over here, but with that other path, the seller path. That's what worked for me. It looks like different users have different things that work for them. As for what is the root password, that is your password. So that is the administrative password on your computer. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch. So this is for only Mac users. So if you're wondering what is MySQL, where is that? We're actually, if you're a Mac user, this is the step where we're making mariadb kind of equal to MySQL. So if you notice, alias MySQL equals user local, whatever. That's just saying, like, hey, like when I use this SQL, MySQL, it actually means I'm referring to this spot right here. So that way it just kind of keeps it shorthand for us. Okay, access denied. If you get access denied for user root at localhost, then go ahead and just add sudo in front of it. Can't connect to local MySQL. Okay, so at this point, you should have installed MariaDB. Okay, should have with like Mac, you could have used brew install, and then you do this alias right here. If you have a Mac, these steps are for Macs. Then if you're running, this is how you go ahead and run it. Also, shout out to everyone who's just helping each other debug in the comments. You know, like, I don't know all the different errors that can come with it, and you guys are just stepping up and helping each other out. I really appreciate it. Yes, sudo is a Mac thing. For Windows, Oh, are you this? You need access denied for root. Any window users know how to help that? Yes, it should change your shell from PowerShell to MySQL because now you're opening the mariadb monitor. It was asking for a password. Put in your own password. I love seeing everyone going like, I'm in. Everyone's so excited. Okay, so why is let me make sure that Alan, make sure that you have the opening quotes too. So for the Windows thing, those are just 3 strings. Okay, so you do quote, like a quote, and then the path, and then ending quote, and then do the same thing with hyphen u root and hyphen p. Okay, Windows. Okay, so someone said, here's what you got to do. Go to the bin of Maria in the command line, and then type MySQL hyphen u root hyphen p. Okay. If so, the reason I'm sharing this alternate path on the banner is if you are a Mac user, and the first alias doesn't work, then go ahead and try this path in the banner. Okay, yeah, and if it's asking you for a password, go ahead and just put your own password. Okay. Yeah, and if you're on Windows and if it's not working, make sure you're running as administrator. So the way you do that, I haven't used Windows since the summer. The way you do that is you have the VS Code, you right click it, and there should be a menu that pops up, and one of it should be run as admin. Go ahead and open that. Okay. Highlight the links. So this is what someone said about use for Windows. Do that. Then and then right click and choose run as administrator. We won't be using like really credits for this workshop, or it should be free. And honestly, we're not running for a very long time. You can do it in a VS Code terminal, or you can do it in a normal terminal. I just showed in a VS terminal just for the sake of just keeping things in one place. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay. And the Mac one works for Linux, so just use the Mac tutorial for Linux. Okay. Okay. It looks like we've had a couple solutions come out there. Let me know if there's any new issues that may come. Just to recap, if you can't find, if you're on Windows and it's not working for you, make sure you're running your app as an administrator, whether you're using your own terminal or if you're using VS Code, run that as an administrator and then try these commands. Someone I think sent 3 asterisks, which I think is a link. Unfortunately, you can't send links in the chat. And then let's go ahead and move on to the rest. So essentially here, I'll go ahead and start sharing my VS Code so you can kind of see this more live. Okay, so now we have this monitor right here. So this monitor is just basically letting us type into the database. Will you be able to do any of this without MariaDB? You will need database to kind of run it. But if you're having any problems, you guys please keep sending in solutions, kind of help each other out. And then if you're still confused on this afterwards, as long as you checked in, you will be getting slides afterwards, and you can also review this video on Twitch. Okay, so now that we're on MariaDB, we're gonna go ahead and create a database. So this is pretty, I think, intuitive. In all caps, you're gonna do create database, and then we're gonna make a database, don't press enter yet, called places. And then we're just gonna go ahead and put a semicolon so it doesn't show up anything. Again, if you want to use other resources than what I'm using right here, feel free to. I just won't be able to necessarily help you troubleshoot. At this point, at this point, you can go ahead and just press enter. I actually already have the database places. So for me, I'm gonna go ahead and just add -2 just so I can follow along with you guys. Never mind. I will be naming it locations. This is live coding. We love it. I just want to be able to help you guys, or run through it with you guys and set it up. Yeah. Okay. So at this point, we're going to create a user for ourselves. We're going to do select user from MySQL. Sorry, from is in all caps, from MySQL.user. Go ahead and move that. Okay, so at this point, you should see a few things. Oh, that banner is covering. Okay, there you go. Sorry, I'm so sorry about the clickety clackety. I can't get rid of it. Okay. So at this point, you should be able to see all the different users. For you, it probably looks something like user and then mariadb.sys and then root. I played around with this a little bit, so I have a little bit more. So I'm gonna go ahead and just create a new user. So you're gonna do create. I'm gonna come up with a username. I'm gonna say MLH workshop, and then do @ and it's gonna be localhost because this is gonna be a local user. And then you do identified by, and you're gonna go ahead and put a password. I'm just gonna go ahead and put password because you guys are all looking at this anyways. Okay. Okay, so next what we're gonna do, if you wanna look to see if your user got inputted, you can go ahead and just run select user from MySQL.user. I just did the up arrow twice, but yeah. Okay. Is there an colon after user? There is not. It's just a single quote. Okay. So then go ahead and we're going to go ahead and grant privileges on this database. So for me, my database is locations dot asterisk. So you guys are going to do places dot asterisk and give that to MLH workshop, or for you, whatever you made your username be, and then @ localhost again. Okay, can I scroll up? Yes. So all I did was, so if you're looking up how to make a database, you just do create database, and then you put the database name and the semicolon. And then if you want to see how many users you have, you just go to select user from MySQL.user. Anytime I type anything. So if for any reason it's not showing up, make sure that you did whatever the line was. You did whatever your line was. So for me, I'm a Mac, so I use sudo MySQL -u root p. Okay. Yeah. So the whoever got the SQL syntax error, make sure you're doing @ localhost, not local hack. So even though this is Local Hack Day Build 2021, we are talking about localhost, which is going to be your own computer, your local computer. Okay. As for how you change the username, we'll just go ahead and just create the user. This is going to be the username. And then this is going to be the password right here. You can either follow along exactly or switch it up however you like. Okay, so after you do grant all privileges, you should see query OK. Okay, and so what we're gonna do is we need to keep in mind what our SQL URL is going to be for our dev environment. So based on this format here, what it's gonna have is it's gonna be MySQL plus PyMySQL : / You're going to put in your username, your password, and then you're going to do that localhost : 3306 / places. Everything except for the username and the password should be the same. But keep in mind, I'll go ahead and switch back to the places, database. That way you guys don't get confused. Okay. Yeah, and for when you guys do need that, I'll go ahead and pull it back up. The username and password for the URL will not be in single quotes. Okay, if you did make a database with the name locations, no biggie. If you want to make one with the name places so you don't get confused later, you just do create databases again. No biggie. That location dot asterisk, that's just me giving permission for this user to have access to that whole database. Okay. So yeah, so the username here is in single quotes, and my username is MLH-workshop. Just to make it, I haven't tested to see if it's case sensitive, but go ahead and just make case sensitive. You don't need to make two. I made one so you could see what it looked like for the output, but we're gonna go ahead and make sure we're using places now. Okay. Okay, so at this place, I know it's been messy, but we got here. We faced these bugs, we debugged them, and we helped each other out. I cannot see links in chat, unfortunately, but when you guys do need that database URL, we will be able to pull it back up. You just have to memorize your, remember your name and your username and your password. Okay. So yeah, that was a rough time. What was that command for that? Oh, that SQL command that was in yellow, that was just a URL that we'll use later. Okay, rip to the person who finally got into MariaDB. I'm so sorry. That was such a struggle. It really was. I had that when I first started setting everything up. Okay, so if you just got MariaDB set up, you will need that, but you don't need that plus the MySQL plus PyMySQL command right now. It's just keep that in mind. Okay. So if you feel a little bit behind, just go ahead. I'll make sure that we're going kind of at a slow pace. Go ahead and open up MariaDB. So for me, I use sudo mysql -u root -p, and then I put in my password, and then I got this right here, which is just saying welcome to the monitor. Okay. Mr. Ice Flame, I'm reading that, or M. Rice Flame. If you are getting this output, this is what you should be getting. Go ahead and do privileges on places. So just to highlight, go ahead and create a database. I already had one named places, so I made a new one called locations. But I recommend that you do places. And then go ahead and select user, and then create user, and then you're gonna grant all privileges. This is being recorded. Go ahead and just refresh afterwards for Twitch on the Twitch profile. Yes, the last command was generating the URL. I will go ahead and show it to you again when it matters, but that was just to kind of introduce it. Yeah, so that error that you got that said you put in create databases, capital places with a colon, make sure you're using a semicolon, and go ahead and just kind of put places in lowercase, just kind of help you out. Right now, go ahead and check to see if like select my user shows up your user. If it does, we're just gonna go ahead and go on. So I think that we'll go. So we're just gonna go ahead and kind of recap. I know it's been kind of messy, but we'll go ahead and move on so that way we can at least get to the meat of it. And if you need to, please review this recording. And then if we have time at the end, we can also work to like troubleshoot together. Okay, so far we looked at MySQL, which is a relational database. We've installed it, and then we've created a database, and we've created a user who now has permissions for that database. Next, oh, looks great. Okay, so that arrow is because you're not putting a semicolon. So make sure you're putting a semicolon. Okay, and so next we'll finally set up some AWS so we can deploy our app to production. I know this is what you guys are mostly waiting for. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and go back to sharing my screen. Keep in mind, I cannot see URLs when you send it in chat. I don't know if y'all can, but I personally can't. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and create an AWS account. So if you don't have an AWS account, here's a link to sign up. And so you do have to put in a credit card to complete registration, unfortunately. But once you get set it up, it should only take a few minutes. So we'll go ahead and get that process started. Okay. If you don't have a credit card, unfortunately, I think you can still try signing up, but I think it is needed to complete registration. Yeah, what Silent Dreamer said, putting the commands in like all caps is just kind of convention. I think it just helps with the readability, so you know like what is a command and what are you inputting. Okay. You can use the Educate account. As long as you can send into your AWS account here, we're all good. So this little red circle is a little off, but you should be able to click that yellow button here that says sign into the console. Okay. Yeah, debit card works. You just have to kind of put it into like a card. I personally made, I think, a personal account. So I'll go ahead and the link is right here. So while you guys are signing up, I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Go ahead again, just use that link. You know, pointing without a reference is really hard. Use that link to sign up. And then you're gonna go ahead and sign into your account. Okay, I will go ahead and share my MariaDB while people are setting it up. Yes, you should create the account and you should be in the AWS Management Console. So you're actually ahead. So, okay. So as long as you are using, as long as you're able to get to your AWS Management Console with your account, you are all good. Okay. So just to recap, you sign up here at this link down below. Then you go ahead and it's, you're going to go through the basic sign up, you're going to verify and everything. And then you're going to go ahead and press that yellow button up at the top that says sign into console. And then you should see this page right here, but chances are like you might just automatically get sent straight to this management console. Okay. Okay. Doesn't look like anyone's necessarily having problems with this. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and talk about what IAM user is. Okay, so an IAM user is an identity and access management user. So basically, this is just something that you'll create in AWS to kind of represent something that interacts with AWS. So a user is just name and credentials, and like keep in mind that the AMM user with administrator permissions is not the same thing as an AWS account root user. So we'll kind of go over like the best practices. So we do have, so like when you signed up, you have the single sign-in identity that has access to literally everything. So that includes like deleting, doing a lot of things that can unfortunately mess up a lot of apps for you. So what we're going to go ahead and do is make an AM user so that way you don't have a root account for day-to-day tasks. And then also now if you have a team, if you're managing people, you're able to create these individual users for anyone who wants to use your, like whoever needs access to your accounts, which includes your apps. Right. But this way, like you want to make sure that, the root user has way too much power. You want to avoid that. If you don't have a credit card, you can also use a debit card. You do have to put in card information to create an AWS account. Unfortunately, there is no way around it. I wish there was, but I unfortunately don't have any control over that. Okay, so I'm actually going to go ahead and let's switch to some good old screen sharing for you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen here. Give me a second to reconfigure some things. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. Okay, so it's going to look a little smushed because I'm sharing screen with my monitor. Yes, so the way it's going to work is you create a root account originally. That's how you have access to this console. But we're also going to go ahead and make another user. Okay. So this, like what I mentioned earlier, the IAM user is actually great for anyone who may need access. Okay, so I'm gonna go look it up here, and you'll see that should be like one of the first services. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and if you see users on the sidebar right here, we're going to go ahead and click users. We're going to add a user and we can put whatever username we want. For me, I'm going to say build AWS, just so that way I can keep in mind. Okay. So while we're here, we're going to go ahead and make sure we have programmatic access, which lets them have like an access key ID and a secret access key, so that way they can sign up for like any through like the AWS API, command line, etc. And we're also going to give them console access, so they'll have a password that allows them to sign in. So yeah. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and put a custom password. Oh, I just put something simple. I'm going to go delete this afterwards, so it's okay. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and press permissions. Okay, so at this point, you guys probably don't have a group or anything, but that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and just press next tag. We'll go into setting up the group in a sec. Right now, we are just setting up an IAM user on Amazon right now. So on our AWS management console. So you can like use tags, which like as you get bigger, that may help you organize everything, but we don't necessarily really need to do this. It's very small scale. Okay. If you are not sure how to get to user, what I did was I did the search right here and I did IAM. I'm not going to click that because I'm in the process of signing up. And then on the left-hand sidebar, there's like groups and users. Go ahead and click users, and there'll be a blue button up at the top that says add new user. Okay, so at this point, you're just kind of reviewing your setup. Everything looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and create the user. Okay, so at this point, you'll have the access key and the secret access key. Download this right away. I'm going to go ahead and download the CSV just because that way you can have it later. You can have it auto-generated. I personally did customized. Okay. So zoom into the screen. A little too much. I'll go ahead and make another user for anyone who missed it. So now I'm at users. I'm going to go add user. I'm going to add a username. Fake user. You can put whatever name. I'm just saying fake user. We give them programmatic access, which lets them have an access key ID and a secret access key. This is super important because without that, they can't interact with the AWS command line. Then we're going to also go ahead and give them access to this console because, you know, it's us, so why not? And go ahead and give them a password. You can auto-generate that. I'll probably auto-generate it this time, and then you can also decide whether or not it has a required password reset. This bit doesn't matter. Like, I personally like custom, so I know, but you can do auto-generated. Okay. So at this point, you shouldn't have a user group, or at least you don't have one for our purposes. So we're just going to go ahead and click next. Tags are just a way to kind of sort the user, but we don't really need that. So we're going to press next. There are no permissions, there are no permissions. That's okay, because that's where the group's going to come in. If you see that error, that's okay. You can use whatever username, doesn't matter, as long as you know. Then you go ahead and create that user, and then at that point, you should download a CSV. Okay, so it should say success, you've successfully created the user shown below, and then just download that CSV, so that way you have the access key, the secret access key, the password, all of that jazz. Okay. Okay. Make sure you have your secret access key before you move on because it is like your only opportunity to get that. Okay, and then I'll go through the app. When you ask what was the step before this one, do you mean during the add user process or how to get to this page? liblotus before creating the fake user. Oh, so I just made 2 users, just so whoever missed it could get it. So for me, I'm gonna go ahead and go to AWS. I'm at this management console, okay? So the way you get here is after you sign up through AWS, you'll sign in through the console. Yeah, I can give kind of like some time to let it sit in. I'll just kind of go over this again. We are creating users for permissions. You shouldn't get billed for it. This should be free for the first bit. The reason we're creating users is the same reason I mentioned earlier. So right now we do have a root user, and we as root users have way too much power right now. So to kind of help regulate that and make sure we don't mess anything up, we're just going to go ahead and create an IAM user that has explicit permissions. So that way we make sure like anything that we're not supposed to touch, we don't touch. We can't. And then now you kind of look up IAM, you find that, you go to services, and then you're going to go ahead and do users. It does not matter what your username is. I have a couple. I personally will be using LHD build AWS. You can register the account as either, I think I use personal myself. So if you have the account as a root user, you just go ahead and look up IAM in the search bar at the top, and you're going to click this right here, the IAM services. You're going to be sent to this page, the dashboard, and then we're going to go ahead and click users, which is in the access management point. Okay. Definitely keep your secret access key. You'll need that. I personally just downloaded a CSV. Okay. Okay, so next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create an IAM group for our user to live in. So a group is just a collection of users. Groups allow us to easily assign permissions to different groups. For example, you could have a group called admins and give that group all the permissions that administrator might need. You can have a group of testers, you can have a group of designers, a group of developers, whatever, and based on their group, give them specific permissions. If Educate is having a problem, you may just need to sign up for a regular like AWS account. All right. So we're going to go ahead and make a group for our AWS users that allow them to use the command line interface with Elastic Beanstalk. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we'll go to groups on the side. And we're going to go ahead and create a new group. Yeah, so if your school doesn't allow you to create IAM users and you're using that AWS Educate, there's nothing I can really do for that. You'll just have to use like a normal account. Okay, so if you are at the screen where you see your users, go ahead back to that left sidebar and we're going to click groups. Okay, we're going to go ahead and create a new group. So right here, you can name it whatever you want. I'm probably just going to call mine back to keep it simple. Local hack day build AWS group. And I'm going to click next step. So at this point, this is a policy. This is where we're going to kind of give them permissions. So what I want to do is I want to make sure they have Elastic Beanstalk permissions. So I'm going to give them the Elastic Beanstalk service, and the Elastic Beanstalk full access. So I'll have that open for a little bit while you guys may be clicking around. Okay. So after this, we're going to go ahead and press next step. If you guys are wondering like what that full access means, the Elastic Beanstalk full access is just letting the user create, modify, and delete Elastic Beanstalk applications. And then for the service, it's just granting Elastic Beanstalk to update environments on our behalf to kind of make sure that we're updating. Next step. Okay. Elastic Beanstalk is just the part of AWS that we'll be using to deploy. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and just create the group. It doesn't really matter what the group name is as long as you remember it for yourself. I personally just use LHD-build-AWS/group -group and the permissions that we put on it. So we'll go to policy name or policy. You can look up Elastic Beanstalk. And then I just use Elastic Beanstalk service and then Elastic Beanstalk full access. So full access allows us to modify, add, delete our apps with Elastic Beanstalk. And this service right here allows us to have updates. Yes, in order to activate an account, you will need to give credit card details. I'm gonna go ahead and do next step. Okay, so now we've gone ahead and created that group that has these policies. So what we're going to go ahead and do is at this point, we're going to click that name and you're going to see this error that says this group does not contain any users, and that's not necessarily what a group does. So we're going to add our users. So for me, I'm going to add LHD, build AWS, go ahead and add my user. You should see a screen just like this. This view shows all users in this group, one user, and it's just the user I just built. Okay. I know AWS was also a little tricky between educate permissions and credit card requirements or debit card requirements or whatever. But thank you for like working through it. It is required just in case like there is some billing. I don't expect there to be any billing necessary right now. But yeah, I don't expect there to be any billing right now. And you can make sure that like all your softwares are closed afterwards. You need to delete any apps that you may have. But if you want to make an account, you do need it. It kind of also helps make sure that you aren't creating multiple accounts under the same card, which could like potentially lead to fraud. Can a user have one username? Yes, a user can have one username and be a part of multiple groups. Also, thank you guys for just supporting each other and just kind of helping each other debug. That's been so great. Because I know like I definitely can't take on everything at once and I don't have as much experience with like Windows computers. So thank you guys for stepping up and being just so supportive of the community. Okay, so now at this point, oh, little MLH emojis, emoticons. I don't really know the difference. As for plans, you can use personal or pro. I personally used personal and then just got signed up. Okay, so we're now gonna pull up the starter code for this application. So we could have made the group first. It was just a different flow so that way we could kind of talk through it. So here's this. We're gonna go ahead and we're going to go get this code. Let me go ahead and type this, make a banner. Okay, go ahead and go here. Go here to get the starter code. So for me, I'm just gonna go /local/ at this point, let me go ahead, share a new tab. Bear with me 1 second. You should get a GitHub link. This is exactly where you should be. Okay. Okay, so at this point, you can, just because we're not really necessarily going over GitHub today, you can clone it if you want. If you want to do your own little thing. Just for less technology, I will be just downloading the zip file. I am not ashamed of having light theme. I like it bright. I will use dark theme for my coding though. I just not on GitHub enough. Okay, so we'll go ahead and download. I'm gonna go ahead. I personally like to keep everything in my projects folder. I'm just gonna call this. Okay. So the link is right down here. Okay. I get it. My eyes, it hurts. I will not be bullied into dark mode though. I will light mode, I stand by. Okay. As for the AWS key, go ahead and make sure, like, when you get to the final part of, okay, just make sure that you download that CSV so that way you have, oh, the key and value, that's a tag. That is great for organizing people, but you don't have to right now because it's such a small scale. So go ahead and just press next. Just skip that part. Okay. So we went ahead and downloaded it. I'm gonna go, okay, at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and set it up in my Visual Studio Code. I will have it up in just a sec. So if you have a Windows, you'll probably have to use some kind of zip file extractor. I'm not sure how they've updated it. I haven't had to unzip a file in years. But if you're on a Mac, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and share. So it's nothing too fancy. I just went ahead and went to GitHub, the GitHub link. I pressed the green button, code, and then I went ahead and downloaded. Oh, the zip. Oh, so like I haven't even gotten to VS Code yet. So because I've downloaded the zip file, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to, for Mac users, you can just like double click it and I'll unzip. I'll rename, I'm gonna go ahead and rename this so it's localhost AWS. You don't have to, I just am because I already have this file. Okay, so it's just MLH localhost AWS. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and open my VS Code and get it ready for y'all. Go ahead. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my terminal down. I'm going to go ahead and just close my terminal. Okay, and so now I can go to my Explorer. I should be able to just, oh wait, you guys don't have. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and right click that file. I'm going to go ahead and just, I think I can just drag it. Sorry, I do this with so many shortcuts, so it's kind of hard to remember how to make that basic. Oh, but clicking and dragging, it worked. So wonderful. Okay. Okay, so you should essentially get that, this right here, okay? Okay, so yeah, I have a Mac, so I just drag the folder into VS Code. Otherwise, you should have this welcome tab right here, and you should be able to just say open folder. Yeah. If you, okay. Yeah, so code space dot only works if you download the shell command, so that's why I avoided that. If you do want to, you can, but that requires a couple extra steps that I don't think we should go into right now. Okay, so do you guys have the folder in VS Code? Okay. So at this point, I've kind of just dragged in the folder. If you have the welcome screen, you can just say open folder. Okay. So just kind of give an overview of what these are. So this environment example, we're going to go ahead and change this to environment in just a second. But this is just all the environment variables that you'll kind of need to run your project locally. So typically these are going to be, that dot makes it hidden. And this way you can kind of put sensitive information there and other people won't have access. Okay, we're also going to be working with the application.py. You can hide it, but for right now, because we are developing it with it, we do want it. Dot underscore. Ignore those for now. I don't know off the top of my head. I think I probably had a setting that did that a year ago. But go ahead and just ignore it for now, as long as you just have at least these. So application.py is just going to be where all of our endpoints live. So that way we can make sure like the users can navigate to the site. Config.py is going to be more about like where our environment variables live. So this is where we're getting the secret key. We move it from here, and then config calls it, and that way we have access to it. Okay. And then db.py is just going to go ahead and set up the database. Okay. Here, I'll also make this a little wider for you guys, so you guys can see everything. Okay, so then yelp.py is just going to be the endpoint for our Yelp API. You'll notice there's a couple like fix me's here. We'll go ahead and fix them later. Local requirements, that's the packages needed to run the project locally. And then requirements is just the packages for running this on AWS. And the setup shell is just kind of info for, it's just a setup file that downloads all those dependencies. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to have our own environment file of ourselves. You can make a new one, but I'm just going to go ahead and take that example and just get rid of .example. If you want to go ahead and make another one, go here, just because it'll probably be good for you to practice. You go to File, you can't see this, but you'll go up to the top, you'll go to File, and you'll go click New File. And you're going to go, or I'm just going to go ahead and do it here. You just do .if right there. That's it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll just ignore that. There's two requirement files because one of them is for publishing to AWS and one of them is for running them locally. Okay, so now in environment file, we're going to put in Yelp auth token and then database URL. Okay, so if you guys remember earlier, we did make a database. Okay, if you're not sure how to make this environment file, you just go ahead up here. I just press that new file button. You see this right here? If you're feeling a little bit lazier, you can just rename this file and take away .example. Okay, so this, we'll be using Yelp. So this database URL is going to be what we were talking about earlier. So MySQL plus PyMySQL :/ your username. I'm going to go ahead and their username, I believe. See, this is why you should remember your username. I'm going to go ahead and open up a terminal again. If you guys need to remember how to do it, I'm just going to go ahead and do sudo MySQL. Okay. Oh, you're so right, Adam. That's probably it. I'm just going to, in case you need a refresh, I'm sorry, you guys. I know this database is a little rough, but I did make a user called MLH Workshop. So that's, thank you, Adam. I still helps. Okay, so MLH Workshop, gonna go ahead, put that username there. So this is just my username. I'm gonna put a colon. I'm gonna put my password. Very original here. Please don't hack me. And then I'm gonna do at localhost 3306 because that's the port. And then we're gonna put that database places. So if you follow along with me, I'm gonna go ahead and I will send. Let's see if this link can send. I think it may have an error with Twit. No, okay, it looks like it's sent. So go ahead and use that for your database URL. Your username, password may be different, but the rest should be the same. Okay. Also, if you're wondering how to get out of this, get out of the shell, I'm just going to type exit, super hard, it says bye, it's nice. The port is going to be the same for everyone. Okay. You were right, I created a database called locations, but I'm going to go ahead and go back to places just so it's uniform for everyone. Okay. So, okay. Now what we do, hopefully this chunk of steps was a little bit easier so far. We cloned the AWS repo or download as a zip file if you guys don't use GitHub. If you're coming a little late, we did do a whole install for mariadb. If you know that you used a different port, please put down that different port, but by default, it should be 3306. Okay, so, okay, so a quick review for after we clone. Okay, so I actually didn't clone. I just went ahead and I'll show you what I did. I went here and I just pressed the code button. I downloaded the zip file. And that was all it was. Hopefully you could see that. I can take down the banner. And so, yeah, so I just downloaded the zip, but besides that, I just opened the zip and I dragged the folder, like literally had the file explorer up and dragged into VS Code. If you have like a welcome tab, you should be able to just open the folder. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to kind of set up our environment a little bit more. So now in the terminal, I'm using the VS Code terminal, and I'm in the folder that the code is in. So if you see this, the port is 3306 by default, unless you changed it, unless you changed it personally, it should be 3306. Okay, so next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use pip. That should come automatically with your Python. So we did that earlier. We're going to use Python. If you are on Windows, you should be able to just use Python. For me, I have to specify Python 3 because I'm on Mac. So I do -m and I do pip install. I'm going to do -r and then local requirements.txt. Okay, so for me, you're going to see a lot of like requirement already satisfied. But other than that, you'll get like a long output. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit to do that. Okay. Can type the command in the chat. So all I did was, for Windows, it should just be Python. but for Windows, for my Mac personally, I had to do Python 3. Go, if you need to take a bathroom break, go. Let's actually, we're getting closer to the end. If you want to go ahead and we'll just take like 5 minutes. 5 minutes, just kind of, we've been here a lot. If you want to move around, shake, stretch. I think I heard my back just crack. I've been sitting down for way too long. Feel free to use that now. Yeah, we'll start with next steps at 2:40, or any next steps that we do. You can just go ahead and go back. Honestly, you are doing everyone is doing such a great job in the comments. I love this. Okay, if you guys are having, okay, at this point, since we're gonna have about like 5 minutes to kind of review, or if you guys need to step away or anything, just feel free. But is there any questions that you guys have at this point? Anything you want to go back to? I know it's a lot of downloading, which honestly to me is the hardest part of developing. This is not the tic-tac-toe project. Oh, for anyone who's showing up a little bit later, I guess what we'll do is, so for anyone else who's coming in later, let's kind of recap what we're doing. Not currently using a virtual environment. I just went ahead and ran the pip line. Okay, so for the last step was just putting this in my terminal. How usage reset. Okay, so the person who's curious, oh, back in the bathroom, love it. So the person, so Shruti, hopefully I said that right. Please correct me if I'm not. If you cannot stay up anymore because it's 1 a.m., this will be recorded. Please don't sacrifice your sleep. Without AWS, we can create the app and we can do it locally, but yeah, you won't be able to necessarily play it, but you can watch the steps. Yeah, at any point, if you want to like do your own thing for like your part, like for this part of the tutorial, please do. Like, no worries. Also, how do you eat dinner at midnight 45? If you want to exit the shell, you just type exit if you're on MariaDB. The app is just going to help us find all the seafood restaurants in the city that we search. Okay. How users we set IAM for can access their environment. So if you remember when we set up the user, we gave them an access key, a secret access key, and a password. So those access keys lets them use the AWS command line interface, and that password allows them to access management console. Okay. Oh, if you notice a change for MLH localhost AWS, this is the same code you found from GitHub. I just renamed the folder. I'm using MariaDB. Yeah, honestly, downloading stuff, hardest part of CS. My stance will not change on that. Yeah, okay, so if you have an error about the could not open, like no such file directory, make sure that you're in this part of the terminal. If you're on VS Code, when you open up your terminal after like opening a folder, it should automatically get there. But I know on Mac, you do CD and then you'll do the file path. I'm not sure what it is on, I think it is the same thing for Windows as well. Oh, dir. That, nice. Okay. Oh, no, I think, no, dir replaces, I think, ls. because it's like directory and then list status. Okay, so now that it's working, that sounds great. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and share the slides again. Okay, so here are the slides. We're gonna go ahead and run this project locally. So here are the different commands that you would use. So for me, I'm going to use the top, just say flask up. Remember, I go ahead and just type it in. I'm typing it into the terminal, yes. You'll have to give me a second to okay. Well, I mean, I'm gonna type this just as fast as you guys. I'm just gonna go ahead. Oh, yeah, I always forget about like how loud my keyboard can be, and that's a Mac command. So that $sign and that's for Windows, and then that just I've never heard a keyboard described as creamy. If you guys want to know what my keyboard is, I got it for free at my internship. I'm not exactly sure what a mechanical keyboard is. If that hurts you, I'm sorry. No module named Flask. Did you guys do pip install? So before this, you do need to do, let me copy and paste this for you guys. You do need to make sure you're using pip to install your local requirements, which will include Flask. And you just be running this in your terminal in the root folder. Yeah, if you're having trouble, if you're using a Mac, you do have to use Python. Yes, so it will be on localhost 5000. Yes, Adam, you got it. You're there. Okay. You don't need bash. Bash is just like, you only need to type what's in orange, essentially. Volume, or you can always push up the fill in the last line. Okay, on. Yes, it should be running on the 127.0.0.1 is that's perfect. That's your localhost 5000. Lazy loading, lazy loading's okay. We're in development, not production. We're in development. Our root folder is the folder that like you should be able to see all of this in. Okay. If you're having trouble with pip install, that there must be at least one requirement to install, make sure that you're inside the folder and that you are doing the local requirements text. Okay. So at this point, make sure that you've done Python or Python 3 if you're using Unix, -m pip. We're just trying to make sure that we're getting to like the next stop. You should just see text. We're about to debug it a little bit. If you have no module named Flask, make sure you are pip installing. Okay, yeah, you shouldn't need to type anything in terminal. We are done with terminal. If everything is running, okay, psych, we're not done, but we are done for terminal right now. We'll add a new terminal later. You don't want to don't close it out though, because um, we're like that. If you close it out, it will terminate the process. Okay, cool. And so now we're gonna go ahead and check out our local host 5000. Let's pull it up for y'all. So now you're right, we do have intentional bugs. So this is all that shows up, and that's okay. Okay, this is all that shows up. We're gonna go ahead and fix it. So it says go to application.py to fix the correct homepage. So we're gonna go ahead and let's go back to some VS Code, because that's what we know and love. We're gonna go change it a little bit. So, oh, I interned this past summer at Microsoft. So then we're gonna go ahead and we're going to go to application.py. Okay, I'm gonna bring down the terminal a little bit so you don't have to see it. And if you're wondering how we got here, there's this function right here, home, that's gonna go ahead and render the page. And this render template looks in this templates page and kind of pulls out like what we want to find. Okay, so Flask is just a way to make a web app with Python. So right now, if you want to look at these, if you guys know HTML, you'll see that start right here says the whole welcome to Seafood Suggester. Oh wait, this isn't right. I know it is a lot, and it will take a sec. I would definitely take some time to kind of walk through it and then rewatch the recording. And then we're gonna go ahead and you see the homepage HTML that has so much more. So we're gonna go ahead and specify that. Okay. Okay. So now you should have gotten the detected change, and it's gonna go ahead and reload. So now at this point, you should have something like this. If you are having trouble with the pip install, let me go ahead and resend that in chat. Or let me actually go ahead and make that a banner. Okay. So you should, yeah. So this is just a search engine right now. We're gonna go ahead, I put in Sadbury. That's just the example. I'm not sure where that is. If someone knows where it is, you get brownie points. We did not put the Yelp auth token in yet. That's a smart cookie. You're looking ahead. Exactly. So if you notice, you'll see that it's just loading and loading and loading. So the way we're going to fix that is we're going to go ahead and yeah, that's exactly why nothing works. We have not connected our API key yet. So now that it kind of works, we're going to, it should auto detect changes and auto rebuild. Make sure that you're saving. Okay. So now we're kind of move into like, what is APIs, or what is an API? So an API stands for just an application programming interface. So you're going to connect like a server with a client. This way, you've probably heard it. you've heard it a lot with like maybe Google Maps API, Twitter API, all those things. It's just a way for one program to offer services to another program. So for us, we're going to use Yelp API. I did not personally create this. I'm using great MLH resources. Okay, so in order to like access an API, we usually need some kind of key, which is just like a unique secret code that that gets passed to the API, so that way you know who is using it. This way, it kind of keeps track of how it's being used. So that way, you can't abuse the API. Let me go ahead and also, if you guys want, I can also go back. If you guys, we'll take another break in just a second, and then we'll go back to how to get the Flask. Okay, so for this project specifically, we're going to be using Yelp API. So if you guys don't know, Yelp is just a restaurant review site. I know it's definitely really popular in the States. I'm not sure. I think it's well known in a lot of other countries, but I am very limited in my view. So this way, it's going to help us like list all the seafood places Yelp knows, because let's be real, like how are we going to find all the information on our own? Okay, so this is what we're going to have to do. We will be using that secret access key in a little bit. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull up a page, and we're a tab, that's what they're called, and we're going to sign up for a Yelp account. So just go to, so what I do is I go to this page right here. Go ahead and send that there. If you don't have an account, yeah, you shouldn't need to see my screen right now. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I'm at the same page as you guys. Okay, so yeah, I love all these ideas here where you're saying like, oh, it'd be really cool to do it with a different API, and you're right. So like now that you've used like this API, you can kind of take that knowledge and experience otherwise. Okay, so at this point, you should be able to see the screen. If you go to that link right here down below, open that. If you don't have an account, sign up for one. If you have like a normal Yelp account and not a Yelp developer account, they're the same thing. So you can log in with that. All right. So now, what code are you referring to? Signing up for the Yelp developer account will be free. It doesn't cost money. Does someone mind sending the Windows code? Did I take all the comments off of? No, I haven't taken all the comments off. I left them on. So, okay, so now what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're going to make an app. So for my app name, I have not fixed anything yet. So my app name, we're just gonna do MLH localhost seafood. Simple, easy, tells you exactly what it is. We're gonna fill in school and education. I'm gonna fill in localhost at mlh.io. Oh, how I got the search bar. So if you go to application, I think it's, yeah, application.py, if you look inside that home function, that it should say render template start HTML, replace it with homepage HTML. When I pull up the code again, I'll make sure to go over it. Okay, so our description, we're just gonna say learning how to use the API. Doesn't need to be anything specific. I don't want to get emails, but I have read and accepted the terms of use. I am not a robot. Oh, CAPTCHA's the hardest. And then all you're gonna do is create a new app. Okay, it's gonna load. And now you should see a wonderful app here. You can see my client ID and the API key. Do not share these. I will just be deleting this right afterwards, so I'm not as worried for security. But again, you typically don't want to share these. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do is take this API key and just copy and paste it. It's a long one. Okay, if you need to verify the account, I'll kind of wait for that. I'm actually just going to go ahead and copy and paste this API key. And then I will pull up the code. Okay. So if you're not sure exactly how to set up the app on Yelp, ooh, you guys, I'm sorry. You might have to take a second for Yelp. On the bright side, that's probably like the easiest part of this tutorial. So can't believe you guys crashed Yelp, you guys. Looks like it worked for someone else. Feel free to just like refresh every once in a while, try it out. Okay. For that person who's asking how we got to the search bar, it's application. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. It is just go inside application.py, and this is the home function I was talking about earlier, and that return render template. Right here, instead of start, you're going to say home page. Okay, and then now what we're going to do is we're going to go inside this environment folder or environment file, and we have our database URL, but we're also going to put our Yelp auth token. Again, if I just want to say, like, we want to make sure that there's a period in front of environment, because if not, it will not be a hidden file. So if you commit it to Git, your API key will be available for everyone to see, and you typically don't want to do that for security reasons. I'm glad we crashed Yelp. I've never been able to say I was a part of crashing Yelp before. So in that case, if you can't find it right now, just go ahead and just like wait for a second, and then it'll probably work in a second. Okay. So now that you have like this Yelp token, what we're gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna scroll down the terminal. You're gonna see that like you kind of get this error, name city is not defined. Okay. Unfortunately, if you can't access Yelp in India, I'll take a note of that and make sure that we fix that for future workshops. But right now, you may just have to like watch. Yes, there is an error. So, okay, what I said about the hidden key, make sure you don't want to share that with anyone. The reason I'm sharing it here is because I will be deleting this shortly after. So you guys, hopefully won't try to hack me or anything. But the main reason is because if someone takes your API key, they can kind of pretend to be you in that, like, pretend to be you. They can be malicious, and you just kind of, you want to make sure it's protected to you. And so part of the reason that we have environment with that period right here is that period makes it a hidden file. So if you decide to push it to GitHub, that's okay, because this won't get pushed. Yeah, they can also like eat up your rate limits. So basically they're kind of pretending to be you. They're using your resources. Okay. Where do we put the app details? So right now, put that API key in that environment file. Yeah, so that dot makes it hidden. So it's gonna, it's also going to be in the git and ignore. There's gonna be a lot of things in here, but you're gonna want it to be in your git ignore file, so that way you don't have that. Yeah. So when you put it in your git ignore file, that means GitHub's gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna push, I'm not gonna pull, whatever. We have gotten the secret access key. Oh, we have not put that anywhere yet. Don't worry about that yet. So now, if you pull up your page, and now it'll be essentially the same, but it's just going to keep loading, just the same as before. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to check out our Yelp file. So if you notice, fix me, probably, you're right. The git ignore does. So the dot is just syntax. That's my bad. So hidden files on your local computer typically have that period. I definitely misspoke. So the get ignore keeps it away from your GitHub. So now we have this fix me right here. We're gonna go ahead and, as you may be able to tell, that's not necessarily what it should be. So we notice that we have a variable here, or if you want to read this step one here, we're going to go ahead and replace this placeholder variable with city as a parameter. So that way, now we're going to get this, we're going to get the city the user types in, and we're going to feed it here. Okay. We're also going to make sure that we get our Yelp auth token here. So there's a little bit of syntax that we need to fix. We're going to go ahead and make sure that there's no F. We're going to put a space and a quote here. And we're going to go ahead and take off the curly brackets right here. So just like that. Easy peasy. Okay. And then one more thing down here is the fix me. This is number 3. It's, instead of fix me, you want it to say businesses. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and rerun my app. So I'm going to go ahead and do Control-C to kind of close, to terminate the process. And then I'm just going to do the up arrow to grab that previous command I used in the terminal. Press enter again. Then give me a sec to pull it up. And now if you pull up your localhost and have access to Yelp, you should be able to see us here. Okay. So the 3 fixes. Okay, so now that we have this, you can kind of see this on your own. The 3 fixes are, so first we changed this fix me placeholder to city, okay? We're gonna go ahead and take in the city from the user's input. Yeah, so that's fix 1. Fix 2, we're gonna go ahead and put in our authorization token. So that's this here. Make sure you have this syntax right here. Okay, so that's fix 2. Fix 3 is down here. Instead of fix me, it should be businesses. You want to go ahead and grab the businesses from that API call. No, this is not an automated daily task. This is attending a workshop. You will get points afterwards by doing the quiz at the end. Okay, change 2. Oh, okay, so make sure that you have this syntax right here. There should not be curly brackets or anything. It should just be quotes, barrier, space, quotes, plus config dot Yelp auth token. If you need to terminate the process, go ahead and do that Control-C. Again, the 3 fixes are going to be city instead of fix me. You're going to go ahead and make sure it says this right here, and it should be in quotes businesses. Make sure that's in quotes. Okay. So it's just getting a JSON array of restaurants in the city, and based off that JSON, there's going to be information on where the image URL is from, what the name is from, and anything else we'll need. Okay, and then just because for like time reason, because the daily task event will start soon. We're going to go ahead and deploy it. So this is where we're going to pull in the AWS Elastic Beanstalk apart. So Elastic Beanstalk is just automating the process of getting your app on AWS. So you can focus on building the web app and then deploy it to Elastic Beanstalk. Okay, so make sure if you're still getting an error to fix application.py, you should make sure that you're terminating first, you're doing Control-C, and then rerunning Flask. Okay. So just so you guys can also like review the recording afterwards, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the Elastic Beanstalk command line interface. So I'm just going to go do pip install AWS EB CLI. Okay, so a lot of it is already satisfied for me. That may take a little bit longer for you. Okay, so then I'm going to do EB init. So I'm just initializing the Elastic Beanstalk. Okay. The pip command is pip install AWS VCI. Okay. With MySQL, we already created a user back in the beginning. Okay. So sorry, I'm going to move a little bit faster because we're starting to we're already past time. I want to make sure that we don't run it too much into other events. Okay, so pip install AWS EB CLI, and then we're going to do EB init. Okay, so we're just going to go with the default. I'm gonna write it down so we can view it in the console. Okay. If you are getting that validation error, Sender, make sure that you have the exact syntax, the exact spacing, quotes, etc. That will show up if you left the curly brackets on there. So we're going to go ahead and create a new application because it should automatically happen. I'm going to put in the default name, so just localhost AWS. Okay, we're using Python, yes. Anything above like Python 3 is fine, it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna go with 1. And then for the code commit, that's okay. For code commit, you're gonna say no. You must protect. For credentials, you should be logging in with your IAM user that we created at the start of the workshop. And then for the setting up SSH, we're just gonna do default for everything. Okay. And so that may be a little bit different for you because I think I've already gone over this before. But just kind of go through the just defaults for the most part. Okay, and then after we've initialized, so if for some reason initialize did not work, are you making sure that you pip installed it? This is the right code. Okay. Try out what Pogfathers is doing if for some reason it did not work. Okay. Sorry if it's going to be moving a little bit fast. Always just go over the workshop and go over the recording at the end in case you need like a refresh. So we're going to do EB create. So this is actually creating the environment. We're just going to do all the default settings. So we're just going to press enter. And then I'm just going to say no to that. Okay, so it's going to create a application version. Okay, so at this point, even if you haven't gotten here, feel free to just kind of like watch. We're gonna go free to go watch. If you have questions, I'll be in the Discord. So we've gone ahead and we've set up Elastic Beanstalk. Now we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about Amazon Relational Database System. So if you remember earlier, relational databases are just databases that have tables that refer to each other. Okay, so we will have to wait for a little bit for this to deploy. And then we can set up our engine. Okay, the Flask command. Let me go ahead and find that slide. Okay, for Mac, Flask is this. For Windows, Flask is that. Just sent that on chat. And then we'll be doing, then make sure that you're pip installing. And then, yeah, you want to make sure that you're restarting Flask after you put in like your, after you put in all this information. And then it should be running at this point. Okay, so make sure that you go ahead and do, after you do eb init, you're gonna have to do eb create, and then we're just gonna go with all the defaults. If it asks you for a spot fleet request, say no, and then it's gonna say that it's safe to control C, but I'm gonna leave it open so that way we can see when it's done. At this point, I'll probably move a little bit faster than you are, so you can always review this at the end. Okay, how do I get from the Flask bit to the pip bit? Oh, so from the pip bit, if you want to go ahead and if you're in VS Code, you can make a new terminal just by pressing this plus up here. So I actually have I have two terminals. So I have one that does Flask and one that's now setting up the EB in it. Okay. And then just for like the sake of time, I'll just kind of go over like the process and I'll show you guys the slides that we're kind of looking over. Just to, oh, actually it looks like, okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and show the slides and then we, if you guys have questions, I'll be in the Discord so you can ask. Okay, so at this point, we would just do like Elastic Beanstalk deploy, and then we'll do open. So this just kind of deploys it, and then, you know, open it. It's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so at that point, we'll see that like through that link, you'll get a link when you do open, and nothing's going to be loading. And that's going to be because there's a few things missing on production versus deployment. So we'll have to like debug a little bit in the browser, and you'll see if you press Command-Shift-J or Control-Shift-J, if you go to network, you can see that it's getting a 500 status. So because like this would be happening, this happened before because we did not have our Yelp token. So then we're going to go ahead at that point to fix that. We would just go to EB console and it'll pop up a console on our page. It'll look something like this. You'll see that you have a check mark and then your platform is going to be Python. At that point, go to your configuration, and at that configuration, you're going to go ahead and click software. And at software, you're going to scroll down to environment properties. This is going to be where we put those same variables that we had before, like the Yelp API key. So we're going to do Yelp auth token and then put in your actual token. Don't put in like the curly brackets. That's just for the slides. All right, and then we go ahead and we go back to the dashboard and you can visit the app. And you'll see that it works, and it works on a link that isn't a local host, it's online. Okay, so that was a lot, but we're just gonna kind of skip through. We looked at Flask, we looked at AWS Elastic Beanstalk, and we kind of learned a little bit more about relational databases. At this point, if you guys want the points for local hack day build, make sure that you go ahead and do that quiz. So that quiz right here is going to be MLH, HTTPS, MLH local.host/quiz. Okay. So make sure you do that. And then you should have an email afterwards if you checked in that has the workshop slides, practice problems, etc. So yeah, that will be it. Yeah, I know this was a little bit of a rough time. There was a lot of downloading, and this is the build and deploy a full stack web app with AWS. Okay, other than that, okay, so at this point, if you guys do have further questions, pop them in the Discord and I'll try to answer them as best I can. Other than that, I'm gonna go ahead and let the automated daily task take over. Okay, bye y'all.